Ready? Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in, being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about how there's a phenomenon in corporate America right now where women are now being rejected salary increases more than men. I'm going to share with you some of the latest numbers around the issue. Also, the federal prosecutor said that they will not pursue charges in the Shanquella Robinson case. What does the family do next? We'll have that conversation. Also, folks, can we at least talk about this new bill out of California that would create a special system called the Ebony Alert to alert people of missing Black women and children? We'll have that conversation. And Freaknik documentary is coming out soon. We don't know what the date is, but it's got a lot of people sweating. Don't talk to your parents about it. We're going to have that conversation up next. So stay with us. Got a lot to get to on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Happy Friday, folks. Happy Friday. Yep, it is officially Friday. It's the best day of the week, as some would say. And today we got a fantastic show for you, as we're going to be having a number of discussions about what's going on around the country and, of course, with our culture. All right, folks. Let's start off with the first one, which is something that many people have been saying and talking about, yet has yet to really come into fruition. This is the issue of pay equity. And there are some new numbers that are showing, folks, that guess what? As much as we're seeing that women are getting more in professional positions, positions of management, positions of leadership, that women are still lagging behind when it comes to the bottom line. Cha-ching, the money, folks. Let me share with you this latest study coming out of the Pew Research study. And then we're going to be checking in with Zai Richardson, who is a business owner. She's been a woman who is fighting and advocating for these type of things. So let me just share with you first what Zai had to say on what Pew had to say on this. Take a look at this. This is based on a March analysis of a survey that was conducted by Pew that found that women who attempt to negotiate higher pay with prospective employers are more likely to be turned down than men. 38% of women said that after vying for a salary bump, they received only the employer's initial offer, compared to 31% of men who asked for more money. Now, this is according to a research associate at Pew, Ms. Carolina Aragio. She said, even though women have increased their presence in higher paying jobs traditionally dominated by men, such as professional and managerial positions, women as a whole continue to be overrepresented in lower paying occupations relative to their share of the workforce. She says in a report that this may contribute to gender differences in pay. Other factors that are difficult to measure, including gender discrimination, may also contribute to the ongoing wage discrepancy. Here's the numbers. Look at that, folks. It's a lag, big lag, folks. And the real problem, let me just share with you, we need to really have a bigger conversation about how do we balance out the playing field here? How does that happen? Especially in 2023, given the fact that women are still breaking the glass ceiling. And it's crazy that, 100 years after the women's suffrage movement and all of these things that are moving, the type of progress that women are making in this country, that this is still the case. Now, this is just for women in general. It didn't get into the demographics, but you can bet your bottom dollar, folks, that Black women are still, if this is the case right now for women in general, Black women are suffering even more so than that. All right, let me bring in my sister, Zai Richardson. Zai, thank you so much for checking in. Always good to talk to you, one of our new contributors here on The Culture. So I'm very, very excited to have you with us today. Zai, you run a business yourself. You are an entrepreneur. You've worked in the corporate space. You've worked in the government space. And for me, it's still shocking that we have to have a conversation about pay equity. We have to have a conversation about the pay discrepancy among genders. Is it shocking for you?
Yes, it's incredibly shocking. And what I can tell you as a highly educated woman, supported and surrounded by other highly educated women, raising a young Black woman, it is demoralizing that in 2023, we are having a conversation about pay inequity for Black women and just women in general. And I love what you said, because it's so true, Farajii. For every single stat that exists around any particular topic, it's so incredibly important to take that stat through an equity lens, because in generally speaking, that stat is disproportionately negatively impacted when you take it and you do an equity lens around marginalized population, particularly Black women. So what I can tell you, it's likely that can be the pay discrepancy or the gap that's happening when Black women are least likely to advocate for themselves. So for me, what this really speaks to is, what is the value that we ascribe to ourselves, and what is the value that we ascribe, that other people ascribe to us? And I think as a woman who has worked in so many different sectors, what I can tell you is that for Black women, it takes a concerted effort. It takes an intentional effort just to get the courage to see your value and to ask for others to recognize it and be compensated adequately for your expertise.
Wow.
And the reason why I can speak to that is because I know what that feels like, particularly when you're in environments when you are one of few, or even when you're in environments where you think you would feel more safe. What you find is that Black women will sometimes go through a barometer or a checklist to say, am I skilled enough to even ask? So to get the courage to even ask for a raise generally takes several months, even to build up your competency and to even say, this is what I'm earning, this is what I'm entitled to based off of research. I can almost guarantee that most Black women in highly skilled endeavors, or even I would go to say that most Black women in general are going through a lengthy, what we do our own research, and we'll come to the table with this field and this and this salary, and this is what I've been able to find, because I think we've been taught in this culture, particularly white supremacy culture, around this idea of perfectionism. And so we hold ourselves to the standard that almost is impossible. So when we have courage to even ask for someone to recognize that, and we are then not reciprocated with that same level of energy and excitement when we come to the table, and then we're turned down, not only does it speak volumes to what is our value in the workplace, it really sets us back emotionally and personally, because it's now like saying that I still have to work to this level. And 9 times out of 10, most Black women are working a step above with their skill set, where their position lies in an organization.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you, Zai. I couldn't agree more with you. And here's the thing about that. If it takes so much for Black women and I mean, you say it takes months for Black women to finally say, you know what, I'm going to have this conversation. Yep. I've had conversations with, Nira, I've had conversations with folks that and I think it's mind blowing that it has to require all of that.
Yes.
Just to show your worth. You got to bring data to the table. Yep. You got to bring your own work achievements to the table. Yep. You got to bring, you got to do like this whole damn PowerPoint for a few extra pennies.
Yep. Yep.
It's not like you're going to the table and say, look, I'm making 55. Can you boost me up to 65?
Right.
You're going to like, I'm making 55. Can you boost me up to 60?
Yeah.
Or 57? And it's like, so my question is on this piece is that do men need to be involved in this? I mean, because a lot of times this effort has always been, of course, been spearheaded by women. You have certain women that just say, you know what, I'm going to just drive through all of these industries and all of these roadblocks and red tape. But do men need to be like really involved in this issue to push it forward? And I know I hate to put us into a space where we're like, oh, the only way that your woman's going to be heard is with a man's support. Mm-hmm. I hate to put us there, but I mean, is this one of them cases where we might have to go there?
I mean, I think certainly that all voices around the critical matter need a critical mass in order to organize it to go from a policy or an advocacy point to an actual tangible policy that rolls out in different tangible ways across organizations. So certainly, I think every population is welcomed in this conversation. I think it's a long-standing conversation that certainly men would be able to add a level of gravitas in terms of we need support, we need help. And I think if you look at the history of people and the history of movements, in particular Black movements, women have always held a critical role and integral role into how movements have played out in our country, particularly for Black women. So we never generally are the passive or the audience that sits on the sideline. We are active participants, and largely we are executioners of major reform policies for every significant milestone that has happened in the history of this country. So I would go as far to say is certainly men are welcome. And I just think a large policy that has to be discussed around this pay equity issue is that, just like you mentioned in terms of the gap of asking for a salary, we also have to understand that generally Black women are starting off at a lower salary because Black women are earning about 63 cents for every dollar comparatively to white non-Hispanic men. That's also lower than a white woman. So generally what we're asking for, just like you brought up the point in terms of we may be asking for 5,000 or maybe 7,000, which marginally breaks down to maybe a couple $100s a month if you break it down over a 12-month period. But if you factor in that we're starting at a lower point, so even if we got a raise, let's just say, for argument's sake, we get a raise. We're starting already in a deficit because we're making less per dollar on the dollar when you compare to other populations, which is a crucial element to this. Because if we're already starting at a lower point, then to even catch up, to be on par, we have a significant road to go because we have a significant gap to cover.
Absolutely. You know, we're going to talk about that. We're going to take a quick pause. Nation of Gamma Nation, you said I would love to see the breakdown per job field, the IT field especially. Bro, I can tell you right now, if you're looking for that breakdown in the IT field, we know women definitely are not making the same amount as men. And we know for sure, without even looking at the data, Black women are certainly not bringing in that much money, especially in certain fields like that. But that's a great point. Great point. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we'll continue the conversation with Zai Richardson. Folks, I want to hear from you. Post your comments on our YouTube chat, on our Facebook chat, and let's continue to have the discussion about pay inequity and this new information about women not being able to get the salary increases that they deserve. Stay with me. The conversation continues right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We have been talking about pay inequity, how a new Pew Research study shows that women has been rejected on a higher rate than men for simple requests to increase their salary. Here's the breakdown. This is the chart coming out of Pew Research, and it's mind-blowing. We're still talking about this in 2023. I've been checking in with our new contributor, Zai Richardson, who has been giving us her insight on this whole process. As she is an entrepreneur working in various spaces. And so we've really been appreciating that. Let me just go to a couple of the comments, Zai, from our online culture crew, because I think they're bringing up some excellent points here as we have this discussion. First, Conscious Thought, I love the part that you made. You said employers are expediting towards automation and artificial intelligence, so they are much less inclined to offer or approve increases in pay. Sad but true. What's your take on it, Zai? With the advancement of technology, and especially AI, but more importantly, automation and everything. Do you think this really? And I think Conscious Thought is bringing up a valid point. Do you think that this is going to cause even more of a problem for women, especially Black women in the workforce?
I think possibly, but one thing about Black women, we work and we are highly skilled.
Y'all work harder than robots?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we may not work harder than the robots, right? Because we don't have the intelligence that's like artificially created with a bunch of in the background. But I think it can certainly be somewhere that people have been concerned about that. I think that I guess I don't get too concerned about it because Black women are so exceptionally skilled. And I think for any type of artificial intelligence, I think it's certainly something we should be aware of. I think it's something we should follow. As a business owner myself and someone who writes all the time, I think the fact that you can put in a prompt and it can spit out some information that possibly can be used, and schools are now creating chat GPT detectors. I think it's an industry that we should be mindful of, to be aware of what its possibilities are. But just like anything else, I'm not afraid of it. And I don't think we should approach it with an intentionality about fear or scarcity in the sense that we are going to lose something as a result of it. And I think that because skill and skill and human intelligence can never be recreated in a computer. And I think the ability in a human touch of compassion, of experience, and of lived experience can never be duplicated in a machine. And I think what Black women have, what women have more than any other species across this planet, is our ability to have lived experience that we gain as mothers, as wives, as sisters, that can never be artificially duplicated. So for me, I just approach it in a way that it's another area to be mindful of, to study, and to be curious about, but not to be afraid of.
Right. That's a great point. Zai, that's a great point. I'm gonna have to do this for you, Zai, because that was a great point.
Like this?
Not to say that you're not smart enough. I'm just saying like that. I never thought of that. You know what I mean? That's an excellent point. All right, my guy Truth is Power checked in. Look, thank you. Man, I love my team. Truth is Power checked in. He wanted me to ask you if you're affiliated to the American Association of University Women that help with gender equality and research and education. He says that he sees them in North Carolina a lot. Are you affiliated with that group, just out of curiosity?
I am not affiliated with that group, but I would be certainly open to learning about that group.
That's awesome. There you go, Truth is Power, my brother. Janae said that part. We start off making less, but why? Or is it just systematic that they make more with less experience or younger? Because how else are they affording these new homes?
Can I just say, I don't know how.
I don't know either. I don't know, Janae. I have no idea. But here's the thing, though. If this is the case right now for a grown woman, an adult woman, right, in her either 30s, 40s, 50s, what's the future going to look like for the young Black woman coming out of college, coming out of HBCU or PWI that's looking to get into the business world? You have a daughter; she's in college. What do you foresee being the future in the next 5 to 10 years down there for her?
Oh, I mean, even in spite of all of this information that is difficult, and yes, as a Black woman, it's demoralizing. But what I can say is, in terms of what's happening in trend, Black women have a future. And my daughter, I feel very encouraged by her when I watch her and when I see her advocate for herself, when I see her be relentless in what she wants. There is a ownership in the individuality in young women that is unmatched and should be celebrated.
Yeah.
And I think there is a mindset. They really are passionate about what they believe in, and they do it in a way that is really clear about, this is what I want, and I'm unwilling to be flexible. So sometimes that's very irritating for a mother, right? And for a teacher. Right. But other times, in certain places that she goes, I can understand that fierce independence, to be really laser focused on what she wants, is an incredible asset. So, and I think it's something that, as our generation, I think we're moving out of that. And I think our generation will be the last generation to really have this, I need someone else to approve my idea before I move forward. So that's young Black women they are so much more vocal about what they want. So I feel the future is incredibly bright for them.
So that leads me to this next question as we wrap up this conversation, which is, do you come to the table wanting to have certain skills? Let me give you the basis for this. Conscious Thought, you checked in. Conscious Thought said upskill, scale up. Facts. That's why I'm going back to school now. And it made me think that should women put themselves, and I'm saying particularly Black women, put yourselves in a position where you're like, okay, I'm gonna come to the table with an overabundance of skills where I essentially justify my worth financially, right? Mm-hmm. Versus, hey, I'm gonna come to the table with just enough skills and then allow the company or the institution that I work for see what I got and then let them shape me to be in that point. Or just like the next generation, it's like, hey, these are my skills. you either love me or leave me alone.
Yeah.
So I've seen women go into like those 3 different spaces a lot in the workplace. What was your recommendation be?
My recommendation now is to go into environments with exceptionalism, and what that exceptionalism looks like for you, it has to be defined for yourself. But I think indifferent to the environment, having to be laser focused on being the best and exceptional in your profession is something that will supersede, and you will be so uniquely qualified position, whether you choose to be independently employed or whether you choose to be in a government, a nonprofit. I just think that type of radiance and passion and persistence is something uniquely equipped that we are uniquely equipped to do. And I feel like we owe it to our ancestors and everyone that came before us to approach everything we do with a level of exceptionalism and difference wherever we go.
I'm feeling it. I love it. I love it. Hey, that's a love me or leave me alone approach in there, right there. That's what you're telling me, Zai. Love me or leave me alone. Like I'm gonna bring my Black girl excellence to the table. Now you do what you may.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna take the little money, but don't get mad when I got that side hustle.
Absolutely.
To the big money.
Absolutely.
Because Black women, y'all will side hustle a job.
We will side hustle. We will have a business. We'll sell crafts. We'll make cookies, bake, and we'll come and write your report for you all in a week. And we may leave the PTA meeting possibly.
Come on, man.
And then come out at night and do a social media video and a YouTube video telling you what's something else.
Tell you what to do and how to get out of debt. How they got out of debt in 2 years. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. Let's have a conversation about what has come out of the federal prosecutor office as they look at the case of Shanquella Robinson. This is the young sister, 25 years old, that traveled down to Mexico and was brutally beaten while she was with her friends. I'm going to share with you the latest report that has come out of what the federal prosecutor's office had to say and what it means for the family in moving forward and getting justice. We'll have that conversation with Zai Richardson and, of course, with you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Earlier this week on Wednesday, there was some unfortunate news that came out of the Department of Justice where they had announced that they will not be pursuing charges in the death of 25-year-old Shanquella Robinson, who died last October after she was beaten while on vacation with a group of friends in Mexico. Let me take a look at this, folks, the situation. It was the federal officials have actually met with Shanquella's family and told them after
careful deliberation, I want to put this quote up there for me, please, Keenan. They told them that after careful deliberation, they determined there was not enough evidence to pursue charges in the case. According to the reporting to the Department of Justice, they said, as in every case under consideration for federal prosecution, the government must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a federal crime was committed based on the results of the autopsy and after a careful deliberation and review of the investigative materials by both the U.S. attorney's offices. Federal prosecutors informed Ms. Robinson's family today that the available evidence does not support a federal prosecution. I want to bring my sister Zai back. There's the sister Shanquella Robinson. Of course, you know, here on Black Star Network, Brother Roland has been talking about this case and keeping us up to date on what's happening with this case. But this is just another blow in the Robinsons' attempt to find justice and hold people responsible for the death of their loved one and of their sister and daughter, Shanquella Robinson. Let me bring my sister Zai Richardson back of Zai Media Group. Zai, this has been an unfortunate case. First and foremost, this case, when I first heard about the death of Shanquella, it seemed like there was just so much mystery around how she died. And there still is. There are a lot of unanswered questions. Initially, it was thought of that she died from alcohol poisoning. And then the video came out, which went viral, and it showed that she had been in a brutal fight. And then they did an autopsy down in Mexico. The autopsy showed that she had suffered like a broken neck. And then they did another autopsy here in the States, and it wasn't determined. And so this is like shrouded in a lot of clouds and mystery about this. And now to get this knock against Shanquella and her family, for no federal prosecution to happen, I'm wondering, where does the family go next?
You know, it's such a difficult time for that family, and you know, it's so frustrating. And just like you described, right? So there's all this information that we have, and so you have a young woman who is on vacation with friends, who went to the vacation, text her mother, is at dinner. And that's the last time her mother speaks to this young woman. And now we're having a conversation about how does this young woman go from a dinner with her mother, a dinner talk and texting her mother, to no longer alive. And we have a video, which was all throughout the internet, where she's being beaten. And it's visibly her. Her parents confirm it's her. She's with friends. She's not alone. We all have to have this gruesome video. So yet again, we have a gruesome video where a parent has to be re-traumatized to see their daughter visibly beaten on camera, and to have the world see your daughter's last moments in a horrific way. So then we have a video. And then, so there's evidence there. Then we go from a video to know that, okay, so then she's involved in an assault. See, it's an autopsy in Mexico that confirms that she has spinal injuries. And we have that. So we have the autopsy from Mexico that confirms that she has spinal injuries. We have a video, and yet and still, we're at a point where there's still not enough evidence to pursue charges. So the question is, what is enough?
That's the big question, because you work with a prosecutor, you worked with the state prosecutor here in Maryland. You know, what? And I understand the government's view. They're saying we need to have pretty much rock solid evidence. But what does the prosecutor's office look at? And again, they said beyond a reasonable doubt. But you have, like you said, you have this video.
Mm-hmm.
You know that the acquaintances, because we can't call them friends and crew, y'all say they were travel companions, they weren't friends. Right. You're absolutely right. So you have these acquaintances, you have somebody videotaping, obviously someone was videotaping this violent interaction.
Right.
So,
exactly.
So in a case like this, it's hard for me to say. It's like, what does the prosecutor need? Do they need what? Because is it about the autopsy report, or is it about the persons that are in the video that's responsible for at least the beating? Like, you mean to tell me no one is going to be held accountable? Like the government saying, okay, yeah, the autopsy in Mexico shows a broken neck, a spinal injury.
Right.
But we did our autopsy and it's inconclusive.
Right. But this young woman didn't die magically or mysteriously.
No, and that's the other thing. She did not die magically.
Right.
Something happened to her.
Something happened to her.
I always think it's interesting that when I hear about somebody like they break their neck, unless they hung themselves, unless they got into a terrible accident,
right?
It's so hard for you to do that on your own.
Right. Right. And it makes me think of Sandra Bland, who goes into a situation alive. She comes out, never comes out. And then she dies. And then there's this overwhelming evidence that points to something happened that was not a fault of her own. And it becomes inconclusive enough to have charges brought against it. In the prosecutor's office, the prosecutor has tons of discretion around what is permissible and what can be arguable in court. So the idea that they have this notion that there has to be no reasonable doubt is arguable depending on the evidence that you are willing to pursue and the evidence that points to the case that you want to create. So we have witnesses. Not only do we have witnesses, it's not a secret. It's not, the video would never have been publicized had someone not taken it. So there's not a question of you having to, this is not a stop snitching, we can't find anyone to talk. We have digital evidence that a video was taken, it was circulated, it was on someone's phone, there was an audience, there was an aggressor, she was attacked, she's on the ground. She has a travel passport, they had travel plans, her routine, she's posting on social media. So her footprints are digitally marked along with, I would guess, those who are with her. So there's so many pieces of information that can be tabulated and analyzed to create a timeline. Prosecutors create timelines just like detectives. So the timeline of when this video first was observed, when it was first created, and then what happened from the time of the video to her death.
And that's the big question.
That is the question.
That's the big question. All right, let me go to some of the crew before we take our next pause. Willie, you checked in and said justice. This is my guy, Willie Frazier. Good to talk to you, Willie. You said justice will come with karma. Those names are out there and nothing will go right for those responsible. Okay, I agree. I think we all kind of have this hope that when we hear very horrific and tragic stories like this, that's something that the justice will inevitably, and justice will, I have no doubt that justice will prevail. We may not see it. We may not be privy to the type of suffering that these folks go through, those who are really responsible, but justice will certainly prevail. But it doesn't necessarily bring some peace of mind to the family who want to see that happen publicly.
Right.
Publicly. I don't know what kind of stress and strain is going through your head, but publicly, we want to see you pay for taking the life of this sister unjustifiably. Norma, you checked in. Norma Hamilton, thank you so much, Willie. Good to talk to you. Norma, you checked in and said, let's admit it, she was the wrong color. All of those acquaintances were like pretty black. There wasn't like a group of black folks.
Yes.
And see, this is the part about it. And Norma, that's the thing. This is the part about it. You mean to tell me that you can go on a trip? Who said this? Norma, you said it. You said, Norma, they hated her that badly, they had to kill her. Sick. Like, what type of individual are you to take somebody's life on a trip like this and then to come home and act like nothing happened? I mean, seriously, what? And you mean to tell me from October all the way to now, this is April, you mean to tell me that you...
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to PO Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
We feel the hidden impacts of climate change that land harder in Black, Brown, and Native communities.
Not many people talk about it because they clearly don't know our lives. But with President Biden's landmark infrastructure and climate plans, our issues are finally seen.
Removing lead pipes means we know our water is safe. Cutting carbon pollution helps our kids breathe easier. 1.5 million new jobs means stable work in communities. The impact we need.
Right now.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We just want to jump right back into the discussion. As we've been talking about the federal prosecutors, the Department of Justice has officially announced this week that they will not be pursuing charges in the death of 25-year-old Shanquella Robinson. We've been checking in with Zai Richardson, founder of Zai Media Group, and she's also had her experience working in the state prosecutor's office for the state of Maryland, giving us her insight and her expertise on what is happening. Where do the family go next for this whole situation? But the point that I was making, Zai, is that, all of this time, nobody is saying anything. You're supposed to be quote unquote friends. And I mean, going back to what Willie said, justice is going to come. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
But I want to see it. I want to see it. Somebody needs to pay for this, because there are so many Black women who could be the next Shanquella, unfortunately. And I hate to put this out there, and I don't like to put no negative energy out there, but there's so many Black women that travel by themselves, and they travel with groups of people. And I think this is a cautionary tale about who you're traveling with, where you're going, the types of folks that you're around. It's so sad on so many different levels. It's just, like my crew said, heartbreaking.
You're absolutely right. It does raise a lot of concerns about your own personal safety. What is our personal safety? When, like you said, there are a lot of young women, especially young women who are traveling in groups. And there's a lot of new friend groups that pop up where people aren't necessarily friends. They are more of associates. They sort of get together based off of a common theme around we all want to go X place, we all want to go here, and you end up traveling together. So you bring up such a good point. It raises so many questions about personal safety, about friendships, associations, because what people are you traveling with that would allow such a heinous act to happen to you, and then almost absolve themselves of any responsibility in what has happened, and absolve themselves to have no responsibility in bearing what happened to your family, and knowing that they are the last people to be with you and to be seen with you. And it's not a secret. Again, this is no secret. There's a digital footprint where everyone has been complicit and participated actively in this assault and this murder of this young, beautiful woman. So I think it does raise, just like you said, Farajii, so many questions about personal safety for women in particular, when this is so prevalent, especially with young women. When I think about my daughter, when I think about other children and my nieces who travel, especially they just got out of college or they're getting out of high school, and there's a big thing, especially international travel. It's huge right now. Huge. And how they're traveling, where they're staying, Airbnbs or vacation homes. Is it safe? Is it not safe? And so you raise a lot of good points. And so for this family, it's like, so now again, we have to organized collectively to say we have to have a rally. I understand they're having a rally, and they have, they have their attorneys, and they go through the same exercise. And unfortunately, it's now become like a blueprint of what to do, who to go to, what lawyers to advocate for you. The Department of Justice has now put out a statement. And what's at the heart of it all is that there's a discrepancy in terms of autopsy report. The Mexican autopsy report says one thing, and then the DOJ's report says another. So if it's inconclusive, the layman obvious question is, why can't a third autopsy report be convened?
And you know what? That may be the direction that the family needs to go in, Zach.
Yeah.
That may be the direction. And I know that's the other part about that is, of course, you've worked in the legal system. That costs money.
It does.
Right? So the family would have to put up some money or do whatever they do, raise money, however they can get some money to help in that process, right? And trying to find the answers. And I think you're absolutely right. I think a third autopsy would be required. If the States is one thing and Mexico saying something else, you're just going to have to get another autopsy to show. But then the process starts all over again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the part about this whole thing is you mentioned it earlier, the re-traumatizing that comes along with, okay, what really happened, seeing the footage, getting the investigators, all of these things play a huge role. Johnny Davis, you checked in and said the Most High is in charge of justice and we don't get to tell him what to do. But the evidence is clear as to what happened. These people acting as though the parents were in on it. That's crazy. Yeah, that is crazy. I don't think I heard. I don't know if you heard that theory, Zod, that all the parents kind of knew. Who would? What? That is crazy. And Johnny, I'm glad you brought that up, bro, because that is absolutely insane. But you're right. Again, it's not about the justice. I truly believe justice will be served, but I do want to hold people accountable. I think that is so important. This was a case that went from no one was really talking about it to everybody was talking about it.
Yes.
And because it got so many layers to it and so many different facets to it, we should see some public display of justice.
Absolutely.
Just for the family's sake, if nothing else. I want to know personally, how do these acquaintances get into a space to do this? Like,
yes,
we should see them. We should embarrass the hell out of them. We should humiliate them. And their family should feel ashamed that they're involved in something like that. I mean, and that's the other part. So you mean to tell me, I think it was like 5 or 6 people that went on a trip with Shanquella. So 5 or 6 families who probably knew, oh, you went, ain't that your girl?
Right.
Shanquella? Didn't you go to Mexico? Yeah, what happened? So 5 or 6 families stayed quiet?
Mm-hmm.
You mean to tell me out of all of those people that went, 5 and 6 different families stayed quiet?
Right.
Nobody is saying, hey, look, my cousin may know something.
Right.
Come on, man. And see, we talk about other stuff outside of the community, outside of us. But the reality is we hold this secrecy so bad. And I hate this culture, because it's killing us. We don't hold killers and those responsible for our death. We don't hold them accountable in our neighborhoods enough. I'm sorry. We do not do that. We want to hold. Don't call on no so-and-so. Don't call the police on so-and-so. Why not? I mean, I get it. Trust and believe me, folks. I definitely get it. But what are we supposed to do? You sitting next to somebody that may be responsible for the murder of someone in a very brutal fashion. Do you supposed to just hang? I mean, what are you supposed to do with that?
Right. Yeah. No, and you raised such a good point because, again, she was not there alone. And I think for me, it goes to, okay, so the autopsy came back inconclusive from the Department of Justice, but is there an opportunity for charges of assault? Is there confirmation that this young woman in the video is her, or if it's not her, tell us it's not her? So I understand a prosecutor's office generally is not able to release public information around an investigation, and I understand the ethical obligations of that and why that's important. But there has to be, other than a statement, I do feel there's a moral obligation that the federal government owes to the family and an ode to the nation at large. And for everyone that has to watch this video and have to see this play out and have to go to this rally, they owe us as taxpayers. There has to be a responsibility to communicate beyond what's permissible, but give us something so that we can understand legitimately how you come to a conclusion that then it makes us think, if that's not her, then tell us it's not her. Give us some level of finality around what happened. And then also, if you're not able to release, what can you release? I just think there has to be larger conversations around that as a moral obligation. As social media advances so fast, so we have to try to keep up with it, and these videos are released, it can't just be the responsibility of we are going to go beyond and just give a statement. It has to be more on the onus of the federal government. And I think you raised a good point about what is the responsibility of those who are with her. And as a community, what we say that we want to accept. I think if she was with white teenagers, or if this was a police beating, it would be a entirely different conversation around what has happened to this young woman. I think there is a propensity to be quiet and to be less angry when the offender looks like us.
That is true. Zod, I'm telling you, you know it and I know it. You worked in law enforcement, legal spaces, you know it. I'm sure that when your office, when you were working, was sitting down and trying to get basic information about something that's just blatantly wrong, can't get a word out of people.
Right.
Can't get a word out of people. Janae, you said you mean snitch. Yeah, see, is it snitching? Is it really snitching, which has a negative connotation to it, right? It means like you're turning your back, you're betraying someone that is close to you or a friend or something. But is that really snitching when you know that the person that you call your friend, your family member, really did do something wrong? Is that snitching? You know what I mean? Like, we're from Baltimore, Zai, so we had the whole stop snitching culture, right?
Yes.
And remember when that whole thing kicked off, it was like, oh, stop snitching, stop snitching. But it's like, bro, you are an impediment. You are an impediment to the family. You are a problem to the community. Is that considered snitching? If you are a problem, either we're going to let the local authorities deal with you, or we got to deal with you. But you're a problem.
Yeah. And I think back in the day, or, in terms of how we self-governed as a community, I think years ago, there was a sense of obligation and responsibility to one another. So you necessarily may not have even involved the local authorities, possibly, but there was a willingness to cooperate more, I would say, collaboratively around your community and with police when necessary. I think right now, individuality has caused us to be so splintered. There is no accountability, self-accountability, community accountability, family accountability. So even before someone is attacked, or even when we know, we are literally sometimes not sharing it even with our closest friends,
right,
and our closest family, just because there's no longer a sense of obligation outside of our individual self. And I think that's the crux of what you're mentioning, why that has been it's been a problem for several years, and it's now worsened. And I think this incident that we're discussing with this young, beautiful woman only has exacerbated and brings attention to that issue around, when do we choose to be vocal about harm that we have caused ourselves?
Karen, you bring up this point. When traveling with a group, please be sure your family has the names, the photos, and contact information of everyone traveling with you. This is not right.
Yes, that's an excellent point, Karen. Excellent.
So I see now that there's a conversation. McCole, you also added to it. You said, I agree, Karen. It is wise to let a few people know when you are traveling. It is a safety issue. This is for men and for women. So we're talking about letting people know what the situation is. I wonder how many people, Zai, will actually take on, because I think that's a great idea. I wonder how many people will actually do that. And how can we incorporate that into our culture, the current culture of how we're moving, you know what I'm saying? Or how we're traveling. Like there needs to be, and I mean, it don't have to be a PSA, but there should be some cultural messages that put out there like, yo, if you're traveling alone, if you're traveling with a group of friends, let somebody know. Because now that may start to create an air of distrust, like you don't trust the people around you, right? And some people may say, okay, that's all good, we understand. And then some other folks may just be like, yo, that's messed up, you don't trust me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important that you do let people know. And it's just that unfortunately, that's the time we're living in right now, Zai.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting to me though, is I would bet that this young woman posted and tagged everyone who was with her in the post. I would guarantee that a simple, and I'm sure that authorities have already done that,
Right.
because people do post and because we have a tendency to tag everyone with us in vacation in that post, generally speaking, publicly, we share rapidly about our vacations.
That's true. That's true. That's true. This for me, and I get what the government is saying, and I don't know, and this is, we're going to have to wrap up. I know that the government the federal prosecutor's office is saying, look, we don't have enough evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. But this seems more like a case that we as the community and we as the culture has to really kind of like bog down on. You know what I mean? This is an example of how the culture can possibly fail us and how the community can fail us. That's what this case means to me. It's one thing, okay, we know how the government feel about Black women, but I think this is more of an indictment against the Black culture, Black community, because we, as much as we want to believe, we don't always take care of each other.
We don't. You're absolutely right.
We don't take care of each other. We don't take care of Black women as much as we want the police, the government, business to take care of Black women. We don't take care of Black women. So I think it's a great indictment on us, not on anyone else. And we got to look at ourselves. If our culture is that we can do this to Black women, we can do this against each other, then it's also an indictment of the fact that, you know what, we need to do more to take care of Black women, the health and safety of Black women. So we will have to see how, hopefully the family will move on for the third autopsy. They said they're not going to be deterred from this setback, but may God be with them, and we will certainly keep folks posted. Zai, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Truly, truly appreciate you, sis. Keep up the great work, and God willing, we'll reconnect very soon with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Farajii.
Absolutely. Always, always. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about what's coming out of California with the Ebony Alert on how they're trying to establish a system that will help track down missing Black women and children. Stay with us. We'll have that conversation up with Nir Muhammad. And of course, with you, stay with me. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I truly, truly appreciate you for tuning in. Happy Friday. Hopefully you've been enjoying the conversation and, more importantly, have had a good week. And if you are just wrapping up your work day, I hope that you are prepared for the weekend as well. But today we wanted to continue the conversation, this time on a different level, as we talked about some of the unfortunate developments in the Shanquella Robinson case. There is some light at the end of the tunnel as we're talking about how do you make sure that the health and safety of Black women stays intact. So check this out. This is what's happening, and I would love to get your take on this, folks, as we have this conversation. But take a look at what's going on in the state of California, how they're looking to change the conversation about making sure that Black women and Black children are staying safe, because there's evidence to show that thousands of Black youth and women go missing across the United States, and people aren't talking about it. And this is happening at a very disproportionate rate. And more importantly, that when you're talking about when these children or when Black women go missing, they don't get the same level of notoriety as some of the cases involving white women, white children. So out of California, State Senator Stephen Bradford is looking to change that. He has put a new bill proposed in California. Take a look at this. Here's what a little bit about what's going on in this bill. He proposed a new bill in California that would address that by creating a public alert system similar to those designed to help find abducted children and older adults. Senate Bill 673 was introduced last week, and it would create what they call the Ebony Alert, like that, system for missing Black children and young women. Now, when activated, the proposed system, similar to the Amber or Silver Alerts, would inform people of missing Black children and young women. Ebony Alert. Take a look at that, folks. So, we all know what the Amber Alert is. They give you the information. They let you know this is the child that's missing. This is the last time they were seen. This was maybe the last person they were seen with. This is the vehicle that the child was missing or was taken in. So that type of information. But can you imagine? And I hope that here in California, they move forward on passing this bill, State Bill Senate Bill 673, because this would possibly change some of this. As much as we all have known cases where Black women goes missing and we don't hear about it, this could be a huge, huge part of making the livelihood and the safety of Black women a top priority. Now, here's the other piece on this, and I want to share this with you. Then, crew, I want to hear what you got to say on this. So, again, State Senator Stephen Bradford brought this bill into the conversation, saying that the new alert system would ensure that resources and attention are given to bringing home missing Black women and children, eliminating implicit racial bias in cases involving missing persons of color. Senator Bradford said, when someone who is missing is incorrectly listed as a runaway, they basically vanish the second time. They vanish from the police detective's workload. They vanish from the headlines. In many ways, no one even knows they are missing. Wow. So here's the thing. And we got Nira, and that's going to be joining us in a moment. But here's the thing very quickly, folks, and then we jump to Nira. If they write a Black woman or a child off as a runaway, that ought just a simple term of using runaway and not somebody that's connected to a family, connected to a community, then guess what's going to happen, folks? That's what's going to happen. they're not going to put the resources behind them. They're not going to take the case seriously. They may not even try. They may just tell the family, hey, we just got to wait to see if they come back home. All right, let me check in with Nira Muhammad, host of Queen Talks with Nira podcast. Also, she's a writer. She's in school to be an aspiring director. She's been talking about these issues. Of course, we, talking about the health and well-being of women and children. Nira, good to talk to you. How you feeling?
I'm good, Farajii, out here in this beautiful sun.
Absolutely. I see. All right, let's talk a little bit about this. This is happening right here in California. They're trying to create what they call an ebony alert to help people track down missing Black women and children. What's your take on this, Nira?
I think that that's fantastic. I think that Black women and children have always been like at the lowest of the totem pole. There's less urgency. And I'm seeing a lot of my friends on Facebook constantly sharing that. I literally actually just posted that her daughter is missing. Her daughter was hanging out with some girlfriends, and all of a sudden no one knows where she went or what happened to her. And so I'm seeing a lot more mothers sharing that their daughters are missing on Facebook and on Instagram. And so if we're doing this ourselves and we're having this network, that's showing you that there's a larger problem. You know what I mean? Like that there's not an urgency when our girls or when our children go missing. We're having to use social media as a method to try to find our children versus having something like an Amber Alert. I mean, not to be, use race as a thing, but the moment that a white child is missing, our phones are all going off for an Amber Alert. We don't really see that.
And we got to use race. I mean, that's the purpose of this, right? Like race is is the fundamental part of that. And I think that's the part about what the senator is saying is like, we don't talk about missing Black women. We don't talk about missing children, missing Black children.
Absolutely.
So I think
it's
race
the truth.
No doubt. And
don't get me wrong. I think it's a very beautiful thing to see Black people creating that network within ourselves, within each other. But I definitely would love to see a larger movement. Just to have that come to our phones, to have us all being on alert, no matter where we are. We need to know this young woman or this young boy was seen at this corner, at this. If you see this particular van or this license plate, we should be made aware of these things as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's the part about this whole thing there. It's like we and I'm going back to what we were just talking about in a previous conversation. We do have to change the culture within our community.
Absolutely.
Where a person, a vulnerable member of the community, whether it's a senior citizen, whether it's a child, whether it's a Black woman, that the community makes an effort to make individuals feel safe.
Absolutely. We should feel safe within our communities, but we have to be also like realistic about the time and the world that we live in. And so just having those safety networks is very, very important because again, like you said, we're not getting those national alerts. And so we have to make sure that we are policing in some ways our own communities and making sure that we're getting back to being that village that we used to be. I think that's a big part of the Black community that's missing that we used to have before. Nowadays, we're so segregated within our own communities. And I think we have to get back to being a community and like defining what community even is.
Right. Absolutely. Karen, you checked in and you, of course, Karen, you live in LA. You said this is excellent. Senator Bradford is the same brother who worked on the Bruce's Beach return to the family. That's the family. That's the Black family that owned that massive land, Bruce's Beach here in California. He writes excellent legislation. I am optimistic that Senate Bill 673 will pass. Karen, I hope so too. I really hope so because this could be a game changer. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, dear, but it's a game changer in the sense that, if we could have a discussion about Black women, the safety and well-being of Black women in a different way, at least in one state, in California, of course, one of the largest states in the country, if California is able to get this across, what's stopping other states from having a conversation? What's stopping Texas or hell, smaller states, Rhode Island, Connecticut? You know what I'm saying? Like, there needs to be something.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing stopping those other states. I will say that I feel very blessed to live in a state where we have such liberal views, and that so many different changes are being made to help people of all different backgrounds, of all different colors, of all different whatever you are, you know what I mean? There are certain protections, and I think that California is doing a beautiful job in leading the country and showing that we can protect our LGBTQIA community better. We can protect our Black and our vulnerable communities better. We do need to do more work for the unhoused community. I mean, I think there's so much that can be looked at from California and modeled into other states, but also I think let's make it successful here, and then we can start to pilot those things that we do here into other places. Like, that's what I'm hoping to see.
Right. And I hope to see, and I hope they don't put one of the big things, and folks, I know we got to take a quick pause, but one of the big things is that we advocate for this type of system to be, especially if you live in the state of California, that it should be mandatory that you have this alert that goes to your phone. I hope they don't try to play around, just much like you said, the Amber Alert, that goes directly to your phone. My hope is that in the state of California, this gets connected to all the phones, right? That
I mean, if it doesn't, then what's the point of us even doing it? You know what I mean? Like, it should the same way if there's a flood warning, if there's a tornado watch, whatever. The purpose of this is to alert everyone when a Black woman or child goes missing. That is the purpose of this. And I don't think that it should be segregated to just Black people that signed up for it. Like, no, this should come through everyone's phone. Now, there may be a way to turn off your Amber Alerts or your alerts or whatever when the weather happens. Whatever. If people want to turn it off, that's on them. But I think that it should be something that it goes to their phone and they have the option to turn it off later, just like with those other services.
Absolutely. All right, folks, look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we'll continue the conversation with Nero. I want to hear from you folks as we talk about the California Senator Stephen Bradford, who has decided that enough was enough, that women need to be heard, that Black children need to be a part of the conversation. What are your thoughts about California possibly creating an ebony alert to alert us to missing Black women and Black children? Share your thoughts on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page, and of course, stay tuned. We still got a lot more conversation about this and other matters right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about what's happening out of the state of California. As one California state senator is looking to change the conversation about the safety and well-being of Black men, Black women, and Black children. He's proposed that this is coming from Senator Stephen Bradford, who is proposing Senate Bill 673, which would basically start an ebony alert, what he calls an ebony alert, that would alert California residents and folks in California about missing Black women and missing Black children. We want to get your take on this. Join us in the conversation. We've been talking to podcast host Nira Muhammad, who has the podcast Queen Talks with Nira, and she's also a writer and activist and an educator talking about this issue as well. So folks, join us in the discussion. We would love to hear from you, and to the crew, keep posting your comments because I'm enjoying what I'm reading so far. Nira, I want to share this with y'all to give y'all some more details about what Senate Bill 673, what that entails, and how they decided to, how Stephen Bradford, Senator Bradford, what he's deciding to do around this. First and foremost, Keena, let's post this, the third quote up on the screen for me, bro. Under this proposal, the law enforcement agency could request an alert to be activated if the missing person is between 12 and 25 years old, if the missing person may have been a victim of trafficking or abduction, if the missing person, their physical safety is in danger, or if they suffer from a physical or mental disability, and other factors. So you're talking about at least 4 to 5 different criteria that determines whether an ebony alert will be issued. Again, the missing person between 12 and 25, they've been a victim of trafficking or abduction, their physical safety is in danger, or they suffer from a physical or mental disability. Folks, I want to get your take on this. Make sure you post your comments. What do you make of that? What do you make of that? And more importantly, do you think that's a good set of, that's a good criteria to have? And I want to go back to you, and we're going to check in with Nira in a moment. But folks, I want to get your take on this as we are talking about the creation of an Amber Alert. All right, let me just go to a couple of folks that y'all already said something. Nicole, my sister, you checked in and said, look, I am here for the Amber Alert, the Ebony Alert, excuse me. I am here for the Ebony Alert. Missing Black people do not receive adequate media coverage. Absolutely. Absolutely. I am here for that as well. So anything to get our story out there, anything to show our value, to affirm our life, I am totally, totally with you, Nicole. So I'm here for the Ebony Alert. Baked Beanie Siegel, you checked in, and Nicole, thank you, sis. Baked Beanie Siegel, you checked in and said, don't allow white people to use that term ebony. Come on, Baked Beanie Siegel. Come on. What are we doing? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? What you talking about? Ebony means Black. What's wrong? What's wrong? Let's not get caught up in semantics, folks. Let's not get caught up. We know what that means. Ebony Alert. We know what that means. We can have the Shanquella Alert. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? But if it's about Black people, what you want to say? What you want? You want to come up with a different term, bro? You want to say Black people alert? Nubian alert? Huh? What are we talking about? Is it offensive that somebody called it an ebony alert? I mean, y'all tell me, is that offensive? Because the last time I checked, we actually have a whole magazine called Ebony. Okay. All right. I just want to throw that out there, that Baked Beanie Siegel, if you thought that may be offensive, then what's up with that magazine that we all love, that we all grew up on, that we all hold high as being part of the Black media landscape called Ebony? Should they change that to Black People magazine? Come on. Let's not get into semantics, man. Let's not do that. You said that's a sexual term when used by certain people. I'm not thinking about that. When I hear ebony, I'm thinking Black. I'm not thinking about sex. I'm thinking Black. But maybe I can't speak to how some people think, bro. I can't speak to that. But ebony is like, hey, that's Black. Again, we have a magazine that's called Ebony. You know what I'm saying? That celebrates our Blackness. So I think that's important for us to keep in mind. Johnny, you checked in and said it has to be well thought out because I am sure the term Ebony Alert vigilantizes vigilantism will be tagged as an excuse for law enforcement continuation, inadequacy. I'm not sure what you mean. How does that work? What do you mean by that? I'm not sure. Brother Johnny, I'd love to hear what your take is and making that a little clearer for me about your thoughts on that. But you saying that it will open the door for vigilantism? I definitely need more insight on that. Allison Kinsey, you checked in and said the California Ebony Alert is a start. I expect a possible domino effect where it can become a federal law. Facts. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. Look, folks, I don't want us to get into a space, and Allison, I appreciate you and I agree with you that it should be in a possible federal law. I don't want us to get into a space where we start chipping away at an effort that comes out of something good. I mean, a good place. The place is we don't have enough conversation. When Black women and Black children go missing, they go missing. That's not a part, unless it's put on social media, unless, the family of their missing loved ones begs and pleads and with local media to get it on their newsreel, and then has to be pushed, and where they got to beg and plead for it to be a part of the national conversation. What are we doing? Let's not get in the habit of shooting down something that is inherently could be really game changing. So that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. Let's not get into that. And I know it's so easy for us to jump into that space and say, well, this is not enough. Look, I'm at this place in my life, folks, and some of y'all may be with me here as well. I'm at this place in my life. If it's good for the culture, right? Whether it's a small step or whether it's a big step, if it's good for the culture, right? If it comes out of a place of wanting us to make some strides and some gains to humanize Black folks, I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm not going to get in a space and start talking bad about a situation, because guess what? If it doesn't happen, then guess what we're going to do? We're going to be like, oh my God, they should have an alert for Black people. But because we kind of muddy the waters a little bit already, Black folks don't want to be behind it. Let's stop doing that, folks. Let's stop doing this. The fact is, our stories aren't told when our children, when our women are gone missing. We don't have enough discussion. Look how long it took to get the story of a Shanquella Robinson out there, or many other stories. Look how long it's taken. Nah, we playing. Nah, we playing. William Latham, you said, I like it, but it might be better if we control it and own it to ensure that it's effective. It's a government situation, though. Who's going to control it? What do you mean, bro? Who is going to control it? If it comes from the law enforcement agency, and I just shared with you what some of the parameters would be for them to activate an Ebony Alert, it would have to meet those guidelines. Then it comes from the law enforcement agency. You're saying if we own it and to ensure that it's effective, who better to put out an alert other than the law enforcement agencies? Because we don't have the capacity as a community, as a people right now to do that. Okay. So I want us to, as we have this conversation, we got to take a quick pause. I don't want us to get into a space where we're tearing down every little effort to make us to change the quality of our lives and make things better. Can y'all work with me on that? Because if we start just eating away at the foundation, why are we doing it like this? Nobody's done it. When do we have a conversation about having a statewide? This is only statewide. This is not even national. We can work out the kinks on a national level. But if you got one of the largest states in the country that's looking to propose and looking to implement an alert system like this, it's a huge start. That means that it could go to Texas. It could go to Maryland. It could go to Florida. It could go to other places that's a win for us all in the community, folks. That's a win. So I'm fully behind State Senator Bradford's efforts to create an ebony alert. We have to know, and we have to make it known that the livelihood, the safety, and the well-being of our children and our women is important. Just as much it is for white women and white children, for us to get those alerts, we need to get those alerts. And I'm glad that it's happening, at least in one of the largest states in the country. All right, folks, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's change the conversation. Y'all been talking about Freaknik on social media. Y'all been talking about folks are sweating, and y'all want to know who actually showed up to that gathering of folks from back in the 90s. Now that there's talk about a Hulu documentary about the infamous gatherings of Black folk, now folks are going crazy. We'll have that conversation. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show. Wanted to have a conversation about Freaknik because it's such a big discussion on social media. People are apparently sweating after hearing about a new documentary that has been produced and will be airing on Hulu, a documentary that talks about the infamous gathering of young Black folks back in the 90s. So, y'all know that annual festival. I remember Freaknik, man. I remember Freaknik, and it was major. The documentary is called Freaknik, The Wildest Party Never Told, and it will chronicle the rise and fall of a small Atlanta HBCU picnic that exploded into an influential street party and spotlighted ATL as a major cultural stage. Can the magic of Freaknik be brought back 40 years later, it reads. Now, this documentary, which is yet to have a release date, is being directed by filmmaker Frank Williams. Some of the film's co-producers are hip-hop legend Jermaine Dupri, Florida hip-hop legend of the founder of Two Live Crew, Uncle Luke Campbell, Peter Bittenbender, Melissa Cooper, Eric Tomasos, Terry Ross, and Alex Avant. And this is the documentary that's got people sweating, particularly if you're in your 40s and 50s. You might be seeing yourself on a Freaknik documentary coming to you soon. All right, we got Nero back.
Hey, Farajii, sorry about that.
Hey. All right, so let's talk about this. This is such like a big thing on social media. People are like, yo, Freaknik documentary. And it's like now everybody's got jokes, and then I really, I put it in. We got it in this thing. Don't tell your parents, because your parents be like, they give you that look, be like, Mom, Dad, what happened with Freaknik?
I mean, my mother doesn't act like that, so I don't have that problem.
No, your mother doesn't.
My mother's like, girl,
hey, look.
I was there.
Here's Mom, y'all. She would be like, Freaknik. Bring out the popcorn and the marshmallows. We're about to have story time. I can tell you some stories.
What a time to be alive. I'm going to say that. What a time to be alive.
Why do
Can
you
we
think
just
this
talk about how
documentary?
lit the 90s were so lit. I'm sorry. So lit.
Well, all right. But the question is, why do you think this documentary got people on edge?
Well, because everybody wants to pretend like they're like don't have this past, and it's like, oh no. I think it's really just jokes. I think it's just all fun. Like I've been seeing comedians, make the videos about finding their mom Freaknik tape, and their mom like, hey, don't you dare talk about that. Like, it's like, that's forbidden. We don't talk about it. I think this is all love and all fun. But I'm excited. I actually want to see the documentary. I love a good documentary, and it was a time to be alive. I don't think you should be ashamed of having fun in your 20s. Like, it is what it is. Like, I can't wait for it. I hope I see my mom on there.
What'd you say?
Look, it'd be nice to see my mom. I'd be like, oh,
hey mom, that's
my mom.
Hey, be like, hey mom, that's you twerking? Damn, mom. Again, hey, yo, their mom would be like, I can show you a few things or two. Okay. Let me go to the crew because y'all checking in on this about Freaknik. Tiana, you said Freaknik was over 30 years ago. Half of them people don't even look the same.
Nope.
No, they don't.
That's a fact. That's a fact. It really is. It makes me think about Soul Train too, though. Like those old Soul Train days. Like, they were having a good time. They were having a time. Okay.
Hey, yo, let me just tell you. Look, I don't know if Shamar Moore will ever see this. Y'all got to see Shamar Moore. Y'all know who Shamar Moore is, right? He's in 50. Yes. Y'all should see the videos of him in
King of Soul Train, dog. King of Soul Train.
Danita, you got an interesting take on this. Danita Jackson, you said no, that needs to stay in the past. Well, here's the thing about this, and you actually going to school, being a director, you love history. I would have to say that it doesn't need to stay in the past. I think there is something fascinating about that gathering, just because it was a huge cultural moment. I remember, people went to.
I'm so tired, and I'm low key tired of like us always saying like, oh, we need to keep certain things in the past. But the moment that we see all these stories and celebrations of white culture, or their stories, what I'm saying, their documentaries, it's like, oh, we need more black, and then we tell our stories. It's like, oh, we need to keep that in the past. Like, which one is it? Do we want to tell our stories or do we not? Like you said, this was a big phenomenon. This is a big cultural part of the Black community. Why would we not have a documentary about it? Why would we just forget everything that we've ever done so that our stories just disappear? If no one talks about you, you're already dead. That's how I look at life. So, yeah, no, as a director, as a screenwriter, stories deserve to be told. Our history deserves to be told and preserved. Why not? Yeah, and like we said, some of these people don't even look the same. This might be a good moment for them. Imagine if you've been kind of just bogged down with life, you've gotten so serious, and you've forgotten that you used to be this like fun person that like used to do certain things. Maybe seeing this documentary would be like, dang, I'm not just like this mom and this businesswoman. Like, I used to be this fun, outgoing, you know what I mean? Like, it's a good nostalgic moment. Like, everything doesn't have to be seen so negatively. Like, just don't watch it or do watch it, but our stories deserve to be told, good or bad. I don't care. Like, stories deserve to be told.
I think we lost Nearest there, but I agree. You know what? I agree with Nero on this one, folks. That it is important that we tell our stories. Here's the other part about it, and to Nero's point, that it opens up this conversation about showing that the depths of us, especially our parents, right? Here's the thing about it. It could also bring people together. And y'all might be saying, what? Some of you, ride with me on this one, folks. If you knew your parents, right, went to a situation like this, and let me just say this, it wasn't always like debauchery, okay? It started off small and it just exploded into something else. But if you knew that your parents took part in stuff like this, or if you knew that, you took part in stuff like this, it could be a way for you to have conversations with younger people in your family about how to about going to gatherings and events like this. And Nira and I were talking about this the other day, and I think this is important. The thing is, would you want to have, or let's go to this question first. What cultural gathering can we really say that really brought us out the way Freaknik brought us out? What cultural gathering do we have today that's reminiscent or similar to that? And put your thoughts in the chats, because I would love to know. Is there any cultural gathering, in that gathering of young Black folks, that we saw at the height of Freaknik? Is that something that we're still seeing today? Is that something that we need to see today? Because one thing that I was sharing with Nira when we were talking about this off air, one thing I was like, I don't think we can have a Freaknik today. And I may be wrong. I don't think it could exist today because the culture is so different. And this is why I think we need to have this conversation about, the importance of having a discussion about a big historical cultural moment like this, because the culture is different. You can't just, y'all remember back in the 90s, well, let's remember the music. You had all types of music, in terms of the shows, Black shows. We have more Black shows that came out in the 90s than we probably ever had on television. From Living Single to, the Cosby Show was out. I mean, there was a plethora of Black shows, Martin, Black shows that we have come to love and still watch today. So the music, if you remember what was going on, if you remember, what was the music of the 90s? You had quote unquote what they call gangster rap. You had conscious hip hop. You had all different types of stuff that represented the very different facets of our community. Then, of course, you saw there were many. I mean, there was this like an explosion of consciousness. There was a lot of ratchetness going on. Culturally, we were leading the charge. And so I think that it's important for us to at least have this discussion, because Freaknik could not exist. I don't think it could exist today, especially when people are in a lot of different spaces about sexuality. They're in a lot of different spaces about how women should be treated, how men should be treated. When we're looking at the music today, yeah, our music might be somewhat ratchet today, but back in the day, y'all know, come on. It was a different time. So I want to put that question out there. Do you think that we could even have a Freaknik today? I would love to hear what you guys got to say on this. Lori checked in. You said, seeing your mama and daddies, this is where it all originated. Twerking. And that music era was off the chain, and the hook Freaknik. Oh, by the way, that was when what's good, just saying. That was when weed wasn't around. There was no cannabis around like that. I mean, folks, of course, were smoking it, but there weren't any cannabis. There wasn't, it's a different cultural point. All right, let me see if I can get Nira back in very quickly on this as we talk about the, Deuce, you said, what you mean, bro? Black barbecues be lit, B. Right, absolutely. But Nira, one of the points I was making is, I don't think it can happen today because the culture of where Black folks are around, especially around women's autonomy, agency over their bodies, sexuality, women, where we are with our music today. Like what we saw in the 90s with the explosion of both consciousness and what we call ratchetness were coexisting at the same time in the 90s for Black folks. Whether you're talking about music, you're talking about movies, you're talking about, of course we had, the Million Man March happened in 1995. And so Freaknik was happening like years before that time. I mean, there were a lot of things that were happening with Black folks as we were trying to find our way in this new space. So do you think we could have a Freaknik today the same way?
I absolutely. I think that we do have parties that look like Freaknik, and we just don't have it televised. It's not advertised in the same exact way, but absolutely we could. Especially after the documentary comes out, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, I want to bring that back. I want to be a part of that too." So I think this, like our new generation, they have it in them to be just as wild and crazy. And hey, I'm all for it. I'm sorry. I mean, like, look at the music that we listen to today. I mean, it's given Freaknik. Like, I definitely feel like young people would be for it, especially after seeing the documentary. Everyone's gonna be like, "Run that back now."
And see, that's the thing that I think that now we're probably in a different space. And I got to take a quick pause, but when we come forward, we might be in a different space and say that was then. We definitely need to study it, look at it, tell that story, but we're in a different place now, right? And it could be like that as well. Very quickly, Young Seek, you said the closest that you see the Jazz Fest at ATL was like Freaknik? The Jazz Fest? Wait. Young Seek said Jazz Fest and ATL, the Roots Picnic in Philly, Mardi Gras in New Orleans, and Essence Fest. Damn! But you had to identify like 4 different gatherings. You had to identify 4 different gatherings. I don't know, man. I'm still on the Jazz Fest. Like you go down there with some smooth jazz, and then all of a sudden.
I still see people. I know a lot of women that go to strip clubs and like go crazy and go wild, and I see like all that stuff in my close friends, and that's why I'm like, it definitely could come back because I see some wild stuff in my close friends all the time. So yeah, it can come back.
It could come back. All right, look, let's take a quick pause. When we come forward, we'll continue the conversation, and maybe I can get to a couple of things for Trends Post and Doing the Most. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about Freaknik, the documentary, the Wildest Party Never Told, the documentary that's gotten social media just going crazy. The documentary that is being co-produced by Luke Campbell and Jermaine Dupree, but it's a chronicle of the rise and fall of the major street party that started off as a small HBCU picnic and that exploded into a cultural revolution. We're talking a little bit about Freaknik, and don't tell your parents. We're checking in with Nir Muhammad, host of Queen Talks with Nir podcast. Folks have been checking in on this. Folks have been schooling me, dear, about the Jazz Fest. Apparently, Jazz Fest ain't just for the jazz aficionado anymore. They said, Young C said that's because we haven't been to Jazz Fest. No jazz festivals are exclusively jazz anymore. Usually an R&B headliner. It's a whole party. Okay. All right, Young Seek, I'm glad thank you for schooling me, sir. Thank you for schooling me. Understand. T. Hines, I think this is absolutely hilarious. T. Hines said, put a thumbs up if you attended Freaknik. Nobody posted a thumb yet. T. Hines, nobody posted no thumbs, man. Nobody. T. Hines like, hey, it's like that scene, like, hey.
But I didn't know the Jazz Fest was jumping like that. Like
the
it's
Jazz Fest
jazz.
must be
What?
jumping. Now I can see Essence Fest.
What?
I can see. I can see Essence Fest. We see. Wait a minute. We got one thumbs up. Oh, that's T Hines. That's your thumb. T Hines, you can't say put the thumbs up, and then you're the only one that put the thumbs up. Come on, T Hines. Come on, man. Come on, man. Let me tell you, look, folks are saying, Karen, you said, Karen Connor, you said that it's hard to do a Freaknik now with the Me Too movement, with the way that Me Too movement and Janelle, and you said the same thing. You got Me Too movement, you got new laws in these big cities and small cities, especially like these beach towns and college towns. You can't do circling the block. Like none of that existed back in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think these cities were prepared for, like Atlanta was truly prepared for that influx of folks. So to that point, I think that's a great point that there are totally different laws, but more importantly, cultural norms and behaviors are being shaped during this time that weren't shaped at that time back in the 90s. So I definitely think that is a huge point for us to keep in mind. All right, Allison, you checked in. Allison Kinsey, you said Freaknik back in college days, the music was different and there was a level of respect. Today's society is very confused. I don't think it will see a positive reception. Very different. I think there is a very, very different society, folks. And I think that speaks volumes about where we are. Then some people would say, because of the way things are going, we're actually making progress. So here's another reason why I think that we could have, this is why this type of conversation need to be had. If we look at where we were as a people, as Black folks, as a community, as Black men and as Black women, and then we compare to where we are now, can we say that there was some growth, there was some progress, there was some positive change happening? See, we're looking at from just 40 years ago, how we relate to each other in the community. Some growth and some positive change. That could be, and this is, again, we can't run away from our past. Our past, just like our collective past, has ugly elements and elements that we're not too proud of, just like our personal past may have those same elements. But we shouldn't run away from our past. We have to embrace all elements of our story, our personal and collective stories. And so this is why I'm excited to see it, because there can't be any real growth. There can't be any change if we want to act as if they'll, keep the skeletons in the closet. I may be wrong on this, crew. I might be totally wrong. But look, you got to teach your children the full history. Now, how much detail you want to disclose, that's a different conversation. But you got to let your children know, especially if you got teenagers, you got college students that, college age students that are your children, have the conversation. Have the conversation. Willie, you said we can't even hang in the parks in Orlando anymore. Meanwhile, there's a 3-day drug binge in the Citrus Bowl, and they let that go. Again, times have changed. Times have truly changed. And I think that speaks volumes about where we are. But it's going to be very, very interesting, to say the least, how this whole situation plays out. Of course, we're going to have more conversation about it. I'm expected to talk to an attorney once it gets closer to when they're going to release that date. We'll be having an attorney that's going to be coming on to the show to talk about, there were, outside of all of the other stuff, there were some unjustified arrests of young Black people that happened during that time period. Major cases that really changed the laws. And these might be cases that you never heard of, folks. So that might be I'm looking forward to that conversation, because this attorney said he was around, prosecuting some of these cases, defending folks in these cases. So, a lot of stuff has come out of it. It's not just about the wild parties and all of that. There are some substantial things that have come out of those gatherings that has led us to the place today. So this is going to be very, very, very interesting. And I think for the sake of the culture, let's accept it, let's embrace it, but then let's have some very civilized and balanced conversation about it, all right? All right, folks, that is going to do it. I see Nira has been choppy a little bit, but we're going to try to bring her back in next week and get her the full, so that way she can be a part of these conversations. But I thank her for checking in.
Thank our sister Zaya Richardson, one of our new contributors and culture crew members here, for checking in. And of course, I want to thank you for checking in as always. Make sure you do your due diligence and support us here at Black Star Network. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. Support us financially, share the content, and also follow us on our social media platform. And you can follow us at Black Star Network on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And we would love to connect with you. And while you're there, folks, connect with me. Would love to talk to you. Would love to share with you. Farajii Muhammad, you can find me on Facebook, but you can also find me on IG, The Real Farajii. I need to get my IG numbers back up, man. I need to post a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? But I got to get my IG numbers back up, so your support of me helps me, encourages me. So go to The Real Farajii on IG, and certainly follow me on Twitter at Farajii as well. All right, stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. It is Friday night. We've been having a fantastic week here at The Culture on The Culture here on the Black Star Network. A lot of great conversations. If you missed any shows, make sure you go back to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, let your friends and family know that we are broadcasting on Amazon News, so they can check us out and just simply ask Alexa to tune in to Black Star Network. And guess whose face pops up? Okay, it's Roland's, not mine. But definitely find us on Roku, on Amazon News as well. That's going to do it for me. I thank and hope and pray that you have a great and safe weekend. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right, while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will reconnect on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.